G'day and welcome back to another episode of the Upside Fantasy Sports Podcast. As you can tell by the state of my voice, I've got some sort of Ebola or swine flu, bird flu, mad cow, COVID. I've got something and I've been battling it for a while. So yeah, it's been grim. It's been a really grim couple of days, but still here recording for the fellas because bye rounds, despite not everyone played them, they're really important. I'll give you a quick example. In my league, we've got a guy who has planned ahead for the bye round. He's lining up 9 players and he gets the best of 6 out of them. And his opponent has basically nearly no one playing. So it'll just be, you know, an effective, like a throw match. And they're like separated by 1 win on the ladder and could be a really material difference if the outcome was more competitive. So yeah, just an example of someone who looked ahead and strategized and took risks and had to drop some good players, and someone who didn't have the capacity to drop any players and may not have looked ahead, and now is basically throwing a week away when they're fighting for the top 2 positions, which is in our league a bye in the finals. So yeah, just a really important week for diehard people in the right setups that play buys. So here I am going through the TLT Blitz as usual. I do want to start just with a few highlights from the week from the Discord and my Twitter and stuff. Here's a quick screen cap from someone who just said that they've joined our Discord obviously a few months ago, and they said another win, 5-0 run by my team now. Thanks for everyone's help with my questions. I've gone from 8th to 3rd and I'm 1 win away from the top 2. So that person in particular is really really uses the Discord to their advantage, always asking questions, getting advice, throwing things out there and getting that sort of crowdsourced feedback from different people. And to go on a 5-0 run in this season with all the chaos that's happening is just massive, and that's how you turn your season around, by being an active player of the game. So pretty awesome stuff from that Discord user. The next one is going to be really hard to see on your screen, but go to my Twitter if you want more insight on this. It's basically a draft board from an auction, and the players that were paid for that cost over $20 were highlighted blue. The grey crossouts are players that were dropped after the auction due to team preseason and whatnot. But anyway, 10 teams there. There's all these different setups. There's guys who have like 7 players above $20, and then there's people that only have 2, but they've got really like expensive guns. And I put the question out to my Twitter followers, and only one person really got involved, which is unfortunate because I thought it was pretty interesting. I just asked, who do you think's winning, who do you think's losing, and who do you think's gonna win the championship? I won't answer here, and if you want to go to my Twitter and look at that breakdown, you can. If you just don't read any comments, just open the images and make the decision for yourself out of all those rosters. And they've changed obviously because this is from for kickoff of round 1, but just to get a feel for how interesting this season is, and just how you don't know what's going to happen when you look at a draft board after draft day, and that sort of stuff's just fascinating now when I look at the ladder of my comp. And it's really interesting. So do that if you're really keen or bored tonight, or after the potty. Have a look at who you think's winning, who you think's losing, and who you think's, and then I haven't obviously seen who's going to win, so we don't know that one. But and then once you've made your decision, look at the comments. You'll see I replied to someone with the answer. It'll blow your mind. So last one, this is a review of Saturday night's scores off the back of the Matchup podcast. So if you've discovered my YouTube videos and whatnot, my content from the Matchup, this is a quick summary of some of those outcomes. So a green tick means that my matchup prediction was essentially was correct, if you will. Bad in brackets or poor or neutral means that it was correct in predicting a not so great score, if that makes sense. So like, let's go Burton, Kickout, DWZ. They're ticks because the matchup predictions were that they had good matchups and therefore they'd go pretty well, and those players went pretty well. There's obviously mistakes, guys. Like, I've got them listed there for relevant players. I'm not going to go through every player that's on the field because they're not all relevant. Pull that up if you're interested in seeing just how, like, that's a pretty strong strike rate. That's like 70% sort of accuracy. And that's just one night. Friday night didn't go that way. But if you asked me, oh, are you going to play To'o? He has a bad matchup. Yeah, I was going to play To'o. I was happy to vice captain To'o. That's why it's important to listen to the podcast for the evaluation and the commentary beside the matchup data. So anyway, that's enough logistics. Let's jump into these teams. Game 1 of round 19, Trai Fuller comes in for Hammer. And he's a noteworthy plug and play. For example, I grabbed him last week to get ahead of the rush for this weekend. Will he be the best plug? Probably not. From memory, he doesn't have the matchup because the Bunnies have been defending really well, which is just weird, but they've been really staunch. But I believe in his base, and it was just an easy, cheap way for me to get someone off freeze that can cover my fullback spot this weekend. I think Bostock's an interesting plug and play. I can't remember, his matchup for the weekend, but he just, if you're desperate in a deep league, the Bunnies have been staunch though, so just be cautious. I've highlighted TPJ because if you're in a deep league, you could throw a flyer on him if he's listed at front row, just with the offloads and starting. Like, do I love it? No. Do I think he'll play that many minutes? Probably not. But yeah, I know people love him and we've seen what he can do in the past. Jye Gray probably presents as a potentially better option than Trai Fuller. They're literally kind of like the same guy. One's just younger and one's more experienced. But the thing with Jye Gray is he's also a great handcuff for Latrell, or you'll get more time out of him and you can play him at 5'8" or whatever. So just a really strong... I'd burn a waiver on him this week due to that ability for this weekend, his positional versatility. And I think even next weekend there's going to be more team. I think there's like Roosters and Sharks, or it's Sharks and someone else, and maybe Knights next weekend on bye. I'll have to double check. It might just be the Sharks, but I know that some teams are more impacted than you'd think. So yeah, Jye Gray's not bad. So yeah, the round 20 mini buy, just to confirm, is Sharks, Eels and Dragons, which I think will impact a couple of people. So yeah, Jye Gray could be good for, getting you a fullback this week and then a halfback next week if you had Latrell and Dylan Brown or whatever it may be. So not bad one there. I think Jack Wighton needs to be owned. He's still under 50% ownership. There's going to be some bad scores, but with him playing 5'8", there's probably more base and workload and just running the ball. So yeah, grab Jack Wighton for coverage at 19 and the rest of the way with the Bunnies not having any more buys, I don't think. Jai Arrow, I don't know when he's going to get surgery, but he keeps sort of doing okay there as a front row option. Not going to force you to grab him, but yeah, it's something to consider. Next game, Dan Atkinson comes in for the injured Nicho Hynes. Apologies for all, and thoughts are with all Nicho Hynes owners who, probably been battling this year for where you paid for him. I had him as a neutral outcome, and I did a bit of a top 25 pick review during the week on Twitter too, if you want to go take a look at that. And now, is he a bust? I mean, injuries, they don't immediately make someone a bust. He has played a lot of the season, but yeah, it's definitely for where you paid for him. You wouldn't have got a pick again for another however many picks, depending on your league size, sometimes nearly 20. So yeah, I think he's pretty much close to a bust, Nicho Hynes, which is really heartbreaking. But there's only 2 guys in the top 10 that aren't a bust this year, kind of thing, basically. So yeah, I think Trindall and Atkinson are both viable options depending on your circumstances. Atkinson, you don't want to be playing him at fullback. I'd love it if he was CT dub halfback, but yeah, you don't want to play him at fullback. But as a halfback coverage, you could do worse, especially with this matchup. You definitely don't mind potentially having a stab with him, and I think he'll kick goals. He kicked when he was in the team before, when Nico was with Origin. Teig Wilton's come back in sort of as predicted, with what's interesting is Talakai's dropped all the way out. So they've obviously seen something on the tape, or he's hurt or has personal issues, but I'm not sure what's going on there, but he's dropped all the way out. Jesse Colquhoun on the interchange is interesting from a bench rotation perspective. Like, is he there to cover backline injuries, or is there some sort of rotation going to happen with Teig Wilton? That's pretty scary as a Wilton owner. I'm not sure, though, how that'll pan out ultimately. On the Tigers, Jahream Bula, his ownership's still under 60%. So if he is floating around your league, he's a great plug at fullback this weekend. He looks like he's just ticked up a little bit in the product he's putting out there. He definitely started the year terribly, but yeah, they're looking like they're playing a bit of footy there. Doueihi, as I mentioned, he should be owned. John Bateman is back and, he's ticking over. He can do a job for you. And Fonua Pole, an interesting speculative ad at front row. He's scored a couple tries lately, and he's using that footwork and that connection with Api Coruscant to deliver some Supercoach points. So if he's around, you could consider him as a pickup, as a free or a low-end waiver for sure. See how it goes. Next game, Keiran Pereira is an interesting plug option in this matchup where the Eels just can't defend out wide. Jojo Fafita, the same thing. Jaden Campbell, Keiran Foran. Jaden Campbell, if he was dropped, Keiran Foran, he's putting some scores together. I which is interesting to me. I don't know sort of how long that keeps up or whatnot, but he can do a job this weekend in this matchup. Don't know what's going on there with Phil Sammy and AJ Brimson. AJ's in the reserves, Phil Sammy 17, so keep an eye on any late swaps. And does Brimo go to centre and Bo Fermor goes back to second row and Cleese Haas then goes back to the bench? I don't know, but yeah, just be cautious if you're owning anyone that has a stake in that. And disappointingly, over to the Eels, Bryce Cartwright back to the interchange. Absolutely just super frustrating year with Cartwright and KPP in those rotations for those sort of fringe, high upside potential back rowers. Charlie Geimer in his second game starts at lock. I just don't understand. He was fine, but is he, like, I don't think his impact's going to be worth a starting lock spot, but we'll just see. Matt Dory, we've seen that he isn't much chop. He's been running hard, I mentioned last week, but he's just not. Like, what are we doing? Just start Matto and Cardi. On that note, Matto does start again. That makes him interesting if he's not owned, and if you did pick him up on a whim last week to see what happens, then yeah, you've benefited there. Dejan Arce sometimes does a job in the halves, but it hasn't been this year, so don't break your back to get him. We've never seen Lorenzo Mulatalo, at least I haven't, but he is playing on the good side, I believe. But Moses isn't there, so that impacts his talent. And unfortunately, Talangi's moved to centres, where I just don't think he'll do enough because he just needs those tries to be relevant. Blaise Talangi, as much as I like him. So yeah, frustrating one for the Eels forward. Shamozzle continues. Hopefully, someone mentioned Cardi might come in late, but we need to see that to believe that, and that's just really frustrating because you just can't really start him with confidence with looking at this, which is just really annoying. Next game is Broncos v Dragons. Not a lot going on here. Sailor could do a job. I don't trust him. Ricky's back, so if he's been dropped and you need a third 2RF this weekend who can get you 50, he could be a play. Tyson Smoothy to lock is interesting. Like, does he do enough there to potentially score you okay at a hooker spot if you're really needy? Tuapolotu was everywhere last weekend. I haven't even looked at his score, but just check it out. The Dragons are scoring well in Supercoach and defending well in Supercoach, so this might not be the weekend, but, potentially for the run home, Christian Tuapolotu could be like a sneaky option there. But then does Ravalawa, usurp him once Lomax is back in? I don't know. Just, proceed with caution. RFM was out on the weekend late, and Luciano Leilua scored really well. So whoever's playing that edge scores really well, because it was RFM, then Leilua. So was going to recommend Leilua, but with RFM back in, can't do that. But, RFM, he could be a third 2RF option. Last game, Tommy Turbo drops into fullback, which is earlier than I think we all thought, but he's probably fanging to play there. It's risky, but Tommy Turbo owners are going to much prefer him at fullback than at centre. Yeah, and then Lehigh Hopewadi at wing. I don't think I really trust him out there, but I could be, I could have egg on my face with that one. Yeah, just a weird. Yeah, I'm not super confident in any of those guys except Tommy and Garrick, really. For the Knights, Fletcher Sharp will do a job this weekend, maybe even next weekend if Ponga rests after Origin. Might get 2 weeks out of him. I think he does have the matchup. You'll have to tune in to confirm that with the matchup potty. Dylan Lucas centre again. He does a job sort of wherever he is. Greg Marju has a good matchup and he's ticking up as we sort of spoke about last weekend, which we love. But without Best and Ponga there, I'm not super confident he does well this weekend, but don't lose the faith. We need to, we've got Greg for the run home, not so much just this weekend. Will Pryce, if he wasn't picked up, he's worth a speculative ad for buy coverage. And I don't know. He looks okay from an attacking perspective. I don't love it. Phoenix Crossland is in starting at hooker with Jaden Brayley pushed back to the bench. That impacts Brayley's value, obviously. Frizzell and KPP start with Lucas in the centres. So, you get another week out of those two boys. We still yet to know which one will become the middle rotation when Lucas is eligible to be an edge back rower, so it's a bit confusing. But for now, I take the victory as a KPP owner, and Frizzell presents as a playable option. In the case that you've got him or he's available. Yeah, we got through that. It was tough though. Just check questions. I don't think we have any, but I'll just whip them up just in case. Oh, we got one here. Sweet. Okay. Lucky I checked. I would have checked with tomorrow's recording anyway. Unfortunate Nico owner here. Oh, I'm guessing this might be JT. What's your best player to replacement? Trindall has already picked up. With an eye on this week, but also rest of season, which player do you think is the best waiver out of Caesar, Atkinson, Rogers? Thoughts on dropping one of the two above for A-Ray? Oh yeah, you've definitely got to get your hands on A-Ray. Like, I know you want to do well this weekend, and in that case, I don't think Rogers against the Dragons, was it? I don't think that's the best option. I don't want to lead you astray, but I haven't seen enough of him to be confident. Caesar scored really well the other weekend. I don't know how. I don't love that either. But then Atkinson, Atkinson, maybe just him kick, but Rogers will kick goals probably too. Yeah, this is really tough. Atkinson has the bye next weekend, so you know, whoever you pick up there. Who do the Tigers play that next weekend? I want to just see who the Tigers play. They play the Sharks this weekend, and then next weekend they play. And you need A-Ray. I'd go on A-Ray as soon as you feel like you can afford to. You need A-Ray. So yeah, that's the one there. Best of luck there. Guys, I think that'll do it. I don't have much more to say. Apologies if I miss editing out any sort of coughing and spluttering. Good luck with your waivers and free agencies. Check out my Twitter for all the stuff that I mentioned earlier. And if you're listening on the potty and you're confused by anything, just pull up the YouTube video. The description will have a list of waivers. I forgot to run through those. Thank God I mentioned it. Teig Wilton, if he's been dropped, must be owned. Jye Gray, Adam Doueihi, Keiran Foran, Jamal Fogarty as a stash ahead of time if you're interested. Braydon Trindall, I think he's a plug. Same as Dan Atkinson. Trai Fuller's a plug. Jack Wighton should be owned, I think, especially for this weekend and whatnot. Jahream Bula, plug for this weekend and beyond, potentially. Fonua Pole, nice speculative ad. Isaiah Papali'i as a stash soon, if not this weekend, next couple of weekends, if you're needy in the 2RF. Will Pryce, Chanel Harris-Tevita poses interesting sort of options. Chanel was really bad, but he wasn't so bad prior to that. Frizzell probably should be owned if, you know, you're needy in a deeper league and he's not owned. Like, I think, yeah, he could maintain that edge spot. It might be KPP that goes, so there's risk there, but I think he should be owned. Talangi doesn't need to be owned anymore. Davey Moale, I've had here as a speculative. I think I haven't looked at him ever again, so that's stupid. TPJ is a specky. That's really it for the list. All right, guys, we'll talk soon. Apologies again if you copped, if I didn't edit anything out that was like me dying. Super sorry, and we'll chat soon with the matchup potty.